Our next guest went from riding skateboards to selling them. Ben Clarke, the owner of People Skate and Snowboard in Kegel Harbor, joins us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Ben, I live in Kegel Harbor. You guys have an awesome store. How'd you pick that location?
Well, it was, I guess it was 10 years ago now. I worked at a different store that was going to close, called TWC. They had been around, I think it was about 20 years, as a manager and a buyer. And when they were going to close, I thought I could make a go of it. So I located in Kego Harbor, where TWC originally was, not in the same location, but in the same city. And it helped me maintain, the customer base that we had grown and I had known for at least 6 years. And, kind of that was really the push that made me pick Kego Harbor.
So, Ben, skateboarding isn't just an exercise, it's a culture, it's a community. Talk a little bit about that and how important it is to have a local business owner who knows the product in which they're selling.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's important of all specialty retail, which I think when we're talking business right now is going to be of primary concern. Um, it's very important to be involved. Personally, I believe, and I guess the reason is you get a different sense of the sport and the community involved. Being present at the skateboard park, whether it's Drake Sports Park or going downtown to Riverside Skate Park in Detroit, or right, there's tons now. They're popping up everywhere. But it's really important to have that face time with the community, with potential customers too, and existing customers. You get to talk about different things in a more candid environment, I guess. When you're in a retail store, it's a bit of a different experience. We do talk about a lot of things in the store, but I think me being involved and actively out there, it's different. I mean, over the years, you'll see kids light up and say, "Hey, you're the guy at the store that helped me get this skateboard." And you know, I think especially when they're younger, they definitely get a little starstruck, which is nice because I'm a decent skateboarder, but I'm certainly not the best one there usually. Um, and it, that involvement is really important. It also kind of helps nail down their commitment to skateboarding. It makes it seem special. When you get to interact with the person who sold you your first skateboard outside of the skateboard store, that there's something about that makes you light up. Or if they know, hey, that guy's on People Skate and Snowboards like skateboard team, they're aware of these things. Skateboarding has, as a culture, definitely has kind of like your big pro stars, but there's definitely local stars too, in a sense. I mean, they would hate me saying that, but but when the kids see them and they light up, you can tell that they really look up to them. Um, what's interesting, you kind of asked about skateboarding as a culture. What's interesting about that is that we don't have as formalized of leagues or instruction base or anything like that. So it's a very, I guess, not vertically oriented social structure. So in that, you see someone who's a really good skateboarder, and you can go up to them and say, "Hey, how did you do that trick? How did I'm trying to figure out how to ollie. I'm trying to figure out how to get from this part of the park to the next part of the park." It's very much welcoming of that, because it's not like we've all gone to some formalized instruction or anything like that. We learn from each other.
So we are speaking with Ben Clarke. He's the owner of People Skate and Snowboard in Kegel Harbor. As this pandemic wears on, we are seeing more and more people take advantage of being outside. Now that your doors have been able to reopen, are your sales picking up, or how is that looking for you?
So for us, sales have always been quite good. We're not really, I think this is true of all outdoor specialty retail that I'm aware of. We're really not seeing a hit, so to speak. I'm not going to say it doesn't present a bunch of challenges and differences and things that we, hope to get over sooner than later. But in terms of sales, things are really level or up. So it's that's been really nice. Skateboarding is one of those activities that you can generally, well, you really can participate no matter what. There was a period in time where the skateboard parks closed down, but that order has since been lifted, and people are being respectful at the skateboard parks about distancing as good as they can. I mean, just as good as trail users or anything like that. Um, you get people who are doing a better job than others, but you try to just be respectful and keep your space of everyone, away from everyone. Um, so I don't remember when we were allowed to open parks back up, but I think that was up to the municipalities generally. It wasn't really like an executive orders necessarily that closed them down, but the municipalities elected to close them down. I want to say until about June. But I mean, anyone who wants to go skateboarding can just simply go outside of their house and any neighborhood road or smooth surface is adequate for skateboarding.
So I will say, I look at some of these skateboarders. Fearless comes to mind. They are fearless. Even in my neighborhood, which is right behind your shop, kids are out on their skateboards, 2, 3 years old. How do you foster this sport, and do you consider it a sport, in kids at a very young age?
I think for function's sake, I consider it a sport. I think it's quite a bit different than other sports. There certainly are sports out there that I would say are more similar. I would say like gymnastics and figure skating, things like that. From a sports perspective, are similar. Uh, but skateboarding has its own like kind of rules to it. So that's where things get a little bit more interesting. That's where I think that culture comes in, where there's a lot of skateboarders who don't like to identify it as a sport because we don't have the structure that yeah, I mean, there are some skateboard competitions, but the vast majority of people are not trying to get into a competition. So to compare that to like baseball, it's radically different. I mean, every game you play is a competition. You basically get into it with the idea that you're competing. With skateboarding, that's more internal. Some people are extremely competitive for sure, but for the most part, you're kind of competing against yourself. You're competing against physics and gravity. You say it's funny you say skateboarders are fearless. There are some that are for sure, but and especially the younger ones. But once you take enough falls, you learn fear. It definitely skateboarding teaches you fear. um, I try not to fall every day I go out. I do fall a lot, but that's something I'm trying to avoid as hard as I possibly can. So I don't know. It's interesting to think of it as fearless. And I do get from the outsider's perspective, it seems fearless, but I think a lot of the time we're quite fearful. We're just working within the tools we have and kind of an assumption that we physically can do what we're trying to complete. So it's interesting to think about fearlessness in skateboarding.
So, Ben, you mentioned that the pandemic didn't necessarily hurt your sales or your ability to continue sales like it had many other businesses, but everybody had to pivot and change how they were
Yeah.
operating in some way or another. How did people skate and snowboard modify its day to day operations during the bulk of the pandemic when things were not as open as they are right now?
Sure. Well, since we're a very small operation, I was basically able to just kind of take over every task for a couple months. So I was working a lot. We have an online store, peopleskateshop.com or peopleskateandsnowboard.com. That was definitely supplementing the sales. It was really nice to have that built out and ready to go. That's something I've always been trying to grow. It because I had put a lot years of effort into it. We were in a good position to still be able to sell things. We were doing, curbside pickups for a period, so people could order on our website and select curbside pickup, which they still can if it makes them more comfortable. We're certainly happy to do it that way. Um, but that was a big pivot. Basically, most of my time went from doing in-store tasks to then moving on to making sure our website was as up to date as possible, which is an incredible amount of work for one person. So that was my pivot.
let's talk a little bit more about not just skateboards are in your store. You also have a very popular clothing line. It's brand specific for people in the skateboard community. Can you tell us more about how you pick and choose what you're selling and that side? Because I believe, did your wife help you in that area as well?
Yeah. So my wife went to Wayne State for fashion design and merchandising, and she's very comfortable on a sewing machine. We certainly when that was actually a pivot that I wasn't thinking about, but we started making face masks, like 2-layer cotton face masks, and she came up with a bunch of different designs, and we kind of picked one we liked best. We were making those for quite some time. We might still continue to make those, but we've been a little bit more in summer mode and trying to enjoy vacationing. But so the process that we kind of go through with that is tends to be, we try to make it quarterly. So we kind of like have a big project that, or maybe like a design concept that we come up with every quarter. And then we also try to make sure we have popular like screen printed shirts that people like. One of our most popular graphics certainly is our milk jug logo. It's basically a jug that just says people on it. And that was created by Matt Hebert, who's a local artist. It basically, we kind of pulled it off of the skateboard deck that he did. It was our first skateboard deck. And we were actually making, they were milk jugs, so they said milk rather than people on the jug. And I think we printed a bunch of those stickers, and then we're handing them out. And people started kind of identifying them as local street art, these milk jugs that were popping up on things. So that, for whatever reason, really stuck. It's funny, you design so much stuff, you come up with so many concepts, and the ones that you don't expect sometimes are the ones that just work the best. And that one really did work the best. So when you see, a big milk jug on the back of people that say people, that's our brand.
So we are talking with Ben Clarke, owner of People Skate and Snowboard, located in Kegel Harbor, Michigan. You were a sociology major. During COVID-19, people are having to reinvent themselves. What advice would you give to someone if they are finding themselves at a crossroads during the pandemic and they want to follow their passion? Do you have advice for them on how to make a business work?
Sure. Yeah, it's layers for sure. I definitely say this is a great time to give it a go, because it's in these radical shakeups that we're experiencing right now, people are in a better position to kind of follow their dream or their passion or give something a shot. It's just a lot of work. I mean, that's the thing that I think makes a business work, is hours and hours put in, having a strong enough concept that you can really pump your time into it and make it work. Because we're meeting through Zoom and we're doing different things like that, your day-to-day schedule changes. When it comes to starting a business, whether it's online or I guess it would be easier to start it online right now, but in person potentially too, depending on it. You have an ability to set your own schedule. So that's what I love about being an entrepreneur and being in business for myself, is that I have flexibility. Though our stores open Monday through Saturday, noon to 6 right now, and Sunday noon to 5. I have employees and flexibility that let me, whether it's work on our line or write orders, you kind of can schedule yourself how you want to. So I guess when it comes to opening a business in COVID time, I think it provides a really good opportunity. So I would say, seize it.
Ben Clarke here on the Oakland County Megacast with Tyler and myself. Ben, just before we let you go, I want to also mention that you are a member of the Sylvan Lake, Sylvan Lake City Council. So can you talk about that, and how has this been to be a member of council during a COVID crisis?
That's been a greater challenge probably than most of the other things, though it's for less hours of the week. Because it's it's not like it's my whole job or anything, but it's been really hard to have Zoom meetings and try to get public comments and trying to get a feel for where the community's at. The Zoom meetings aren't doing it. We're trying our best, but we have issues that we have to take care of and move forward as a city. Um, so the Zoom thing has been difficult. I mean, this is fun. This works great. But when you have people who really need to hear good reasons for why maybe we're making a decision that we're making, it's very difficult to communicate that through Zoom. With the hand raising and people not knowing how to unmute themselves or mute themselves. That technological barrier in our city has been definitely difficult, and caused a lot of frustration. So we're really just doing our best to try to be transparent. I'm constantly outside walking around, skateboarding. I hope residents are willing to come and talk to me, because that's really the best way to communicate decisions we're making in government.
Ben Clarke with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Last question. Anything that you want to add that you want people to know before we let you go?
I mean, not really. Just come in, see me, have a conversation. we're at I guess we're at 3375 Orchard Lake Road, which is at Commerce and Orchard Lake. So, experience skateboard culture. A big part of that is going into the skateboard shop and having a conversation, whether you're just looking at stickers or you're trying to buy a skateboard or you're buying nothing and you just kind of want to check the place out. I think you'll be surprised and feel very welcome in there.
Thank you so much for being with us, Ben Clarke, owner of People Skate and Snowboard in Keagle Harbor.